Sherry Bagley, Executive Director of AEE. Thanks for joining us today. We've created this video to share expectations of being an ActivatEE speaker. ActivatEE is a compelling, amazing part of our international conference. Today, we have several of our coaches and speakers here on this Zoom call to share with you. First, John is going to share a little bit about the origin of ActivatEE.
Great, thank you, Sherry. Yeah, my name is John Regenton, and I was a speaker in 2013, the really first ActivatEE opportunity that we presented at the international conference. And ever since, I've been a coach. And it's been my pleasure to be a part of this process now for the last 9 years. The design of this program originated because what we recognized in the AEE international space is that there are a lot of talented individuals who could give great workshops, deliver wonderful keynotes, but we also had a whole nother population of individuals who are new to the industry. However, they too had a lot to say, but maybe not necessarily in a workshop format or a large 45-minute presentation, but the lessons that they could bring to our table were valuable for all of us to learn from. So we spent quite a bit of time creating this design and this delivery of this keynote platform where multiple people would have an opportunity to share their story in 7 minutes. The most powerful pieces of this is that this gives you the opportunity of the space. We embrace your voice, but most importantly, we embrace the lessons that you've learned that you can share with us as a community.
Thanks, John. Michelle's going to share with us about the storytelling process.
Hey y'all, my name is Michelle Pagano. I am in Chicago, Illinois, and I did ActivatEE in 2019 and now serve as a coach. You know, your story will really start in your submission. So whenever you submit for ActivatEE or apply to be a part of ActivatEE, that is where you will start to tell your story. It doesn't have to be all done and tied with a bow already. From there, we're really going to build a connection and relationship with you, get to know your story. And each week, we're going to be practicing your story with you, going through your narrative. We'll start to build story arc. One thing that I really like is spoken word. And so using things like tone and imagery and symbolism and really revising your story and going through it. For me, I told the story about my mother's immigration narrative to the United States. And so it was important for me to figure out how to tell a story where, you know, I was combining the past with the present and connecting that, how that impacted my life, how that impacted my experience in the outdoor industry. And so, yeah, from there, you're really every single week revising and rehearsing with your coaches. And yeah, it's definitely a process, but we'll be there with you.
Awesome, Michelle.
Yeah.
Next, Rachel is going to share with us some of the logistics of the process, the motivations, and the growth process that our speakers go through.
Hello, thank you, Sherry. My name's Rachel. I'm from Southern Illinois. I was a speaker alongside Michelle in 2019 and then started coaching right after that. And what a growth process it is. I think one of the things that you might not expect, like Michelle was talking about, your story changes over time. That first story that you submit is most certainly not the story that you end up sharing. And the good stuff in between really is a huge opening to vulnerability. And that's something that as coaches, we are very aware of and we invite. And you know, I shared a very vulnerable story, you know, through my grief journey of losing my brother and the things that I learned along the way. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me in that process of crafting my story and then becoming a coach was that I got to really learn about my personal motivations and what my values were. And I learned more about myself than I really expected after submitting an application to this international conference to speak to people who I'd never met before. So I think that that's one of the most beautiful things about this experience is it's an invitation to be vulnerable in a place with people who will support you along the way, and a wonderful experience to learn about yourself.
Thanks, Rachel. Hutch, can you share with us what speakers can expect about the coaching process, the storytelling as experiential ed, the team of speakers, sort of the selection?
You betcha. I'm Hutch. I'm at Boston University. I did my talk back in 2013 and have been coaching ever since. And really, thinking about what Michelle and what Rachel had just said, you listen to that experience as they're describing it. It sounds like so many of the adventure experiences that those of us in the experiential ed world are used to crafting for people. And really, that's what Activate is. But instead of doing a ropes course or a paddling trip, it's storytelling. Now, from the audience perspective, they may see, there's the selection process and then the final product, but it's everything in between that really is that facilitated process. It's what the coaches are there to do. And so you're building that relationship with your coach. We're going through that whole experiential learning cycle and in your revisions and in your rehearsals and practicing. And you're also part of a larger group, that there's a team of people who are also going to be presenting at the next conference. And so you're connecting with them as well. Writing and public speaking can often feel like a very solitary thing, and that you're just kind of sitting down doing your writing and revision and editing. That's not what Activate is. Activate really is that communal experience that we have as a group going through that process, just like any other adventure experience that we use.
That's great. Thanks, Hutch. Christine, do you want to share with us some of your expectation as a coach?
Sure. I'm smiling from ear to ear because I love hearing what my team is saying about the process. We have been at this for 9 years, some of us, first as a speaker in 2013 and then coaching ever since. And really one of the phrases that we have is that stories need space. And so this is a holding container for your story. This team, this community of experiential educators is here to mentor, support, challenge, help you hold firm in your motivation, your why, your courage, as you do that process that Rachel said, which is revise and revise and revise, not with the goal of perfection, but the goal of authenticity, right? The goal of making sure that your story is your story. We do a lot of work around stories of transformation. And like Rachel said, a lot of times that involves vulnerability. So we want to make sure that we are holding and creating that trauma-informed space, that space also that really values diverse identities and social justice and elevates multiple perspectives and voices in this community. We also know that stories need shape. And so part of it is when you bring us a story, we might help you get rid of certain things that really don't enhance or serve the story. And sometimes that's really hard as the speaker. You have things you're like, no, I want to hold on to that. But if we can think about kind of sculpting your story together to give it an authentic shape that really highlights your voice and offers the gift of transformation to this community, that is the greatest honor I think that we have as coaches. To be with you on that journey. So I'm excited to read your applications and really hope that you will take this risk with us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. And now we're going to hear from Esther, who is one of our most recent speakers and one of our first virtual speakers. So Esther, what surprised you most about your Activate experience?
Thank you, Sherry. I did present for the first time at Activate 2020. And since it was virtual, I guess for me, one of the biggest things that was a surprise is that I tend to have really bad anxiety when presenting in public spaces. But since I was in the comfort of my own home, I felt safe in a virtual space to present. My presentation happened to be on mental health and how it impacted my family. And in my experience, I was triggered a lot of times at home, but luckily since I was home and in my own space, I had space to process not only with my own family, but community, and had access to nature, which I used regularly. But equally important to that, I also felt very supported by my coaches. One identified as BIPOC, the other did not, but had the most gentleness approach about him, which is exactly what I needed, especially when I was being triggered. Somebody who was patient with me, who stood with me, even when I was being challenged to change things in my story that I did not want to change. They stood there patiently, and that's exactly what I needed. I used that experience to reclaim my voice, but not only my voice, the voice for my community, which is the Latinx community. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today and sharing. We look forward to hearing from you all out there who are watching this video, your stories, and we can't wait to see you in 2021. Thanks.